Hello and welcome to the Ungovernable podcast with Oumou. My name is Oumou and I'm an artist and researcher originally from Senegal and I'm now based in Berlin. I've moved between places a lot, so both culturally and geographically, and that does shape how I see sports. Growing up in Dakar and now training in Berlin, I have experienced very different realities of what it means to be an athlete, and there are way more resources where I am today and so much more infrastructure, so much more access. But at the same time, there are so many different social dynamics that become visible. And I think sometimes when you move between contexts so much, you just start to notice things a little bit faster, maybe faster than normal, to put it that way. And for me, I think that is an advantage. And I don't take sport at a face value. I really pay attention to what's happening underneath. And I'm also quite curious. So when I say ungovernable, I really don't mean chaotic or reckless, or self centered in a way. I really mean personally ungovernable. So to me, it's about refusing to be shrunken or having to adjust myself and to change myself so many times just so it can be deemed acceptable. And today, I want to talk about something that's been sitting a lot with me, and that is the male gaze in sport. There's a long standing critique about how male authors are describing female characters. And so, for instance, when a woman walks into a room, before we know her thoughts or her voice or her work or whatever she is about, every detail in the description is just about her body. For example, you would read something like, she entered the room, breasts entering before her, which is quite dramatic and honestly really ridiculous. And I think it's funny because it's also recognizable, but that's how women are often seen before they're known. It's bodies first and the human afterwards. And I've been thinking about how that doesn't just happen in books or in film, it does happen in sports. For example, when I'm running outside, very often I would notice that a man who's jogging in front of me at a quite, casual pace would just start running really, really fast. And just because I've passed them. And I think that's kind of absurd because there was nothing showing that they were, for example, doing an interval training or something. And sometimes I also notice people who were looking like they were almost done with their run and were near the exit, but just decides randomly to race me. And honestly, man, I'm not about that race with you. Moving forward, I also noticed that this very same thing happened to me at the gym. So I'll be lifting quite heavy, for example. I'm right now trying to, get really strong with deadlift and squats. And I see men trying really hard not to stare. Sometimes if I'm at the squat rack, they would walk to me. So there's two squat racks at the gym where I go. And they would walk directly to me to ask me how long I need. And my answer would be always, I'll take as long as I need because I'm really pissed off and I'm just unable to be very kind about this anymore. And I'm just tired of being the one they ask because most of the time there's another guy there, but why are they targeting me? Why are they choosing me to ask me when I'll be done with the squat rack? Is there an assumption that, oh, I'm like weaker and I'll just be there for 5 minutes, or I don't know how, reps work and sets and all of that? It's very subtle. It's really, really subtle, but I feel like once you start noticing these things, you just can't really unsee it. And there's something that we use to call this pattern, and it's called the male gaze. And this term was coined by a film scholar. Her name is Laura Mulvey. And she argued that in many films, women are positioned as objects to be looked at, while the men are positioned as the one who act and who move the story forward. And you don't have to study film to understand that, because it's a feeling of being visible in a particular way. And I think when she came with this term, it was, I don't know, maybe in the 60s or 80s. I'm really not sure. But I feel like it's really showing in sport, if we, try to connect it, it's showing how in sport this can be intensified, because sport is already about bodies. It's already about strength, about speed, about performance. There's so much measurement about that. But when a woman steps in, or also a gender diverse person, um the body is not just athletic, right? There's so many comments here to be added and to be thrown at. um I feel like when someone start to speed up as I pass them as a femme body, it becomes this like competitiveness. Somehow it's kind of like an instinct. It's something where it's like a small reassertion, like, oh, I'm faster, I'm still stronger, this is still my pace. And it might be unconscious, but I feel like we're living in these social patterns and our bodies are slowly absorbing them. By now, I've reached a stage where I really don't care what somebody else is doing in the same space as me, specifically when I'm running at a park, in a public space, or also at the track. I'm just, you know, I'm tired of having to wonder, why is this person trying to raise me, and do I want to give them attention? Um, I don't know if it's an experiment they're also trying to do, but I feel like yeah, it's this like, it creates so much tension. I feel like you can really feel the effort that they're putting, and for me it's quite exhausting. I feel like men are socialized to look and also to compare, but they also are socialized to be caught. No, they're socialized not to be caught looking. So this podcast is not to blame any individual man. I'm not trying to talk about anybody in particular. I'm just talking about a structure, and a structure that I think a lot of people have noticed and could relate to. So there's this philosopher named Sandra Barkey, and she builds on work of Michel Foucault. She's building on his ideas about surveillance, because Foucault has argued that modern power doesn't always show up as someone directly controlling you. It works through the possibility of being watched. So if you feel watched, you start to adjust yourself. And if we connect that in sport, it's like, how many times have you adjusted your leggings before a lift? How many times have you thought about how you look while you are running? um how does it feel like to change the time that you go to the gym? And I know a lot of friends in the past have also told me, oh, yeah, I would prefer to go with a friend at the gym because I don't feel comfortable going by myself. And now I'm like, yeah, why are some beings not comfortable going by themselves at the gym? And a lot of people feel like a lot of human out there are just watching them, and they're gonna judge them because they are a beginner at the gym, and they would just like at the end avoid going to the gym altogether, because it just becomes this place where you can't be yourself, and where you can't be comfortable, and where you can't train in peace and freely. And I know that, yeah, the solution to that would be to, reframe your thinking, not care and all that. But that's also quite a complex task. And it takes a lot of effort and a lot of determination to overcome, when we connect it to how we are socialized, and how we are raised, and how we are educated and told to behave, especially for people who've received an education and who grew up being educated and socialized as women. Moving bodies and bodies in sport are racialized. They are shaped by body size. They are shaped by class, by sexuality. And if we want to discuss this, I really need to mention Kimberly Crenshaw, because she introduced the idea of intersectionality. And intersectionality helps explain how systems of power overlap. And that matters here, because the way a black woman is seen in a gym is not the same way as a white woman is seen at the gym. The way a muscular woman is read is not the same way as a thin woman is read. Different bodies are interpreted differently. So, who is seen as powerful, who is seen as threatening, who is seen as decorative, and who is here out of place? Visibility is not neutral. And that's why being personally ungovernable feels so important to me. What would it feel like to lift without calculating who's watching? What would it feel like to just be able to go out running, to go cycling, to do literally anything out there that involves movement without worrying about someone watching? Um, I want to feel like what it is to run without feeling like you've entered an unspoken competition the second you pass someone. What it is to take up space without softening yourself first. Like, do I have to be there and say to the person asking me about when I'm done with the ride, like, yeah, I don't know, maybe three more sets or maybe two, or yeah, it's also, why don't you ask the other guy? I mean, the very first time, I don't remember what I said, but I know that I was quite apologetical about being at the squats rack and for so long. And sometimes it also make me feel like I have to rush up what I'm doing. It's taking sometimes away the joy, because all of a sudden I feel like, oh my God, this person is standing there and is just waiting for me to be done. I have to be respectful of their time. I need to wait for them. And yeah, it starts to just be too much. It's too much. It's like too much of thinking, of worrying, too much of feeling apologetical without yeah, without really connecting with myself and my experience. And I think there's this quote that I have printed and that I read a lot, and it's stay rooted in your own experience. And this quote quite helps me quite often to just feel like, no, there's nothing to be apologetical about. I have the right to be here. I have the right to move myself and to move my body. Now, do I owe this person to tell them how long I need and all that? Yeah, I could do that, but only just to be a nice, kind, and respectful human. But was that person kind and nice when they walked to me first and not to the guy? Because what I would suggest is, why don't this person ask the both of us, or just tell us, hey, I'm queuing. Whenever you're done, I would like to take this. That is so understandable, in my opinion. I can really sympathize with that and understand that, oh, okay, because that's fair. I do that also now. When I'm going and the two racks are occupied, I would just like wait, I'll linger around, I'll just be like, hey, I'm waiting, when they eye contact me. Because I'm trying to give a signal that I'm not trying to rush them. And I think it's really important for people to feel like they can, occupy the space, they can take their time, they can do their workout without being rushed. They were there first. It's only, and I think this is where I'm going to leave it, because at some point we need to, move from a bit of theory and get into how it feels to be in the body, because it's so exhausting to constantly calculate, to wonder if you're taking too long, lifting too heavy, being watched, being judged, being read in a way that you didn't choose. That's energy, and that energy comes out of joy. And sport for me is really supposed to be a space for joy, or at least a little bit of relief. It's supposed to be breath and rhythm and feeling strong in your own skin to feel good. It's not all about competition, honestly, or comparison. But when you're always managing how you're being seen, You're not just moving anymore. You're not just, letting your body move with its own natural flow. You're just managing. And I don't want to manage when I train. I don't want to manage how I train. When I'm moving, I don't want to manage anything. I don't want to worry about anything. I just want to be there, to be fully, fully, fully there. Um, and that is what ungovernable means to me. It's not really aggressive, it's not chaotic, it's not competitive. It's not shrinking, and it's not apologizing for taking up space or time or the weight on the bar. And I know that we all shaped by this system, and this stuff is quite subtle, but it's also layered, and it's not going to disappear overnight. This podcast isn't going to solve it. Many podcasts aren't going to solve it. A lot of fitness influencers are also not going to solve it. But the more we start to noticing it, already changes something. And again, once you see it, you can't really unsee it. And maybe being personally ungovernable starts very small. And maybe it's just deciding that I don't owe anyone softness before I owe myself presence. If someone speeds up when I pass them, that's their story. If someone feels uncomfortable watching strength, that's again their story. I get to move, I get to train, I get to exist in that space without shrinking or apologizing. And maybe the real question here is not also, um, isn't it only about the male gaze? It's also, what would it feel like to move through sport without constantly calculating who's watching? And what would change in us if we did? That's something I'm thinking about, and that's why this matter. And I wish you all a wonderful time training. I wish you all a wonderful time running, and I hope you can start to notice in your life when you're feeling watched and how you show up into spaces and what it feels like to take up space. And I hope all of you will be taking up more space and training unapologetically.